we have a rollout of meters. But I agree with one of the speakers says we have dumb tariffs still. We're not taking full effect of that. But the way we roll out our tariffs in order to support a system that gives customers a choice will depend a lot on how customers accept those tariffs. If we simply repeat the mismanagement of the rollout and education process that was done already in Bakersfield, we will have a full-scale revolt on us in terms of a lot of very expensive meters out there in the market. So what we are working hard on is trying to get the Commission to roll out tariffs that are not punitive, that give people a choice, but do it in a way that they can react to those tariffs. For instance,
you say tariffs. Is that synonym to dynamic
rates.
Pricing?
Well, dynamic pricing is one form of rate making. Let me just talk about it in terms of rate making, not use the word tariff. A rate structure, I should say, a rate structure that is pure dynamic pricing is not something we support, because the changing, basically what that means to me is changing the price of energy on an hourly basis doesn't bring people to change their behavior. What it does is it punishes them before they know what to do about it. If you want to engender behavioral change in people, you do it in a way that they can predict what their cost basis is, but you do it in a way that somewhat mimics the higher cost of energy in the afternoon. So we're in favor of time of use pricing. So basically, you get lower prices in the morning, you get higher prices in the afternoon, you get lower prices in the evening, and that is done predictably, because then a person in the Central Valley will know that is what they can expect, and they will go out and they will buy the more energy efficient air conditioner to react to that. They won't do it necessarily on a dynamic pricing schedule, because they won't know ahead of time if they're going to be punished for using electricity at a certain time of the day. And the effect of that sort of thinking is that, and this is also very important to small businesses as well. Small businesses don't necessarily have the ability to change their business very rapidly. So they have to have predictability in terms of their rates. And the effect of this is to try to, which was the original reason that we had dynamic pricing ideas, was to drive peak down, so we don't have to build power plants in the middle of to serve load in the middle of the afternoon. So, I mean, we think that's important, because if we don't have that, then we're going to have people revolting, we're going to have them going to the legislators, and we're going to have piecemeal energy policy in the state, and we don't need that.
Commissioner Kay and then Commissioner Brewer.
Just wanted to follow up on this, and I'll ask Mr. Friedman. It's been a long time since I've paid attention to this question, so maybe you can educate me. Is there still a legislative moratorium on rate increases for baseline residential users up to 130% of baseline?
The legislature modified the statutory provisions with SB 695 that was enacted in 2009, and that change allowed the first two tiers of residential rates that comprise 0 to 100% and 100 to 130% of usage to increase based on an inflation index on an annual basis. And so all the utilities have already filed and increased those rates repeatedly since that law was passed, and they continue to do so.
Okay, so to the extent there's an inflation increase, those tiers will feel that. To the extent there's increases as a result of higher costs, whatever the 7% or whatever it might be from the renewable portfolio standard, they'll still be somewhat immunized from those increases.
Well, assuming that a customer stays entirely within the 130% of the
tiers,
baseline.
within those.
Well, yes, but the vast majority of customers have usage in the higher tiers. Every customer, if you're a tier 4, a tier 5 customer, you have tier, it's like the marginal tax rates, right? You have lower tier usage at lower prices. It's designed to create sort of an inverted pricing structure. And one of the things, we've done some analysis looking at pretty granular data of residential users, and what we have found is that Customers that are in the highest tiers consistently tend to have a higher coincidence of their usage with system peak. They use a greater percentage. Basically, the correlation of their usage and system peak is pretty good. Customers that tend to be only in the lower tiers, never get into the upper tiers, tend to have a very different correlation. There's a different level of cost causation associated with that. In addition, people with larger usage tend to have larger houses, tend to have larger incomes. There are a set of correlations that we found that suggest that the tiered structure, while many people have critiqued it of late, might actually be a relatively decent proxy for the way that costs are incurred to serve customers.
So you're saying that time of use incentives are less relevant to customers that live in the first two tiers than it is for customers that live outside the first two tiers?
I think that that's probably generally true, yeah. Mr. Brewer?
If you have a smart meter, do you get the designated pricing automatically?
Currently, there's no system for providing real-time pricing for residential customers. Today, as a residential customer of any of the three major investor-owned utilities, you have the option right now to switch to a time-of-use rate schedule. They all maintain them. You could switch tomorrow and then have time-differentiated pricing. In the future, there's been talk about dynamic pricing, which could include hourly prices. It could include certain days of the year designated as very high-price event days, and there's lots of different options that have been put out there.
Let me pose a puzzle to you. There's a development in the Coachella Valley, about 1,800 units. They have had smart meters installed. It's a 55 and older community. Everybody's bill has gone up since the smart meters went in.
Well, I can't speak to that particular example. I can say that I talk with the people at my organization who handle consumer complaints, and we get a lot of complaints from people who have pointed to bill increases associated with the installation of smart meters, including, although it's anecdotal, situations where people went on vacation for a month and came back and ended up having a very large bill. And so there's something going on here. And
so do you know what the correlation is? Has your organization looked at that?
We have asked for information. I don't think there's been any demonstration of a correlation of increases. I've asked the utilities in some of their rate cases if they're seeing a difference in usage as a result of the installation of smart meters, and they have responded no. But it's a complex and interesting issue, one that we are definitely monitoring.
Well, if you go on vacation and you come back and your bill is equal to or larger than it was when you're home, something's going on.
It's a problem.
Yeah.
And part of the challenge has been, at least with PG&E, an unwillingness at the outset to admit even a single error, and then to only admit that there were 50 or 100 errors, and then 10,000, and so on and so on. So it's a challenging process.
It's hard to be infallible. Huh?
I think this goes back to my comment on the structural report, which the Commission did, the California Public Utilities Commission did. Contract, they did do some analysis of the meters, but our analysis of their analysis was that it was not complete. Our efforts to even talk to the contractor that did the work were thwarted because the contract had run out and we were not allowed to follow up on the data even that the contractor had used in order to do their work. So I think that there's unfinished business in terms of determining if there are still problems with those meters.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming today. It was a very interesting hearing, and you guys contributed to it significantly, so appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no speaker cards, so with that, I will adjourn the public hearing. We'll reconvene in about 10 minutes across the street for our business meeting. And thank you all for attending today. Sure. So it goes.
Carolyn's suggestion has